Blessed love and peace. Do not know how much longer we got to record this, but we're gonna share a joint. We got 2 joints, and then we see what happens because buses, bus it, not that bus it. We're talking about old school bus it. Before salt and pepper bus it. All right. So here's the first joint. We got, let's name one first so it's easier to remember. First joint is, you know what, if the bus comes, we might wrap this. This ain't it. All right. So they didn't. All right, cool. One is the Valley Girls done took over Cambridge. What up? Valley Girls done took over Cambridge. The second one is Raids. Alright, that one was extemporaneous. Waddy. Alright, first one, Valley Girls done took over Cambridge. So, back in the day, so we've been told, here in Ohio, we're told, this is back like in the 70s and 80s, we're told that journalists, broadcast journalists, people who are training to become professionals, local broadcasters, back in the day when there was actually television, regardless of where they are around the world, Texas, California, in Apache land, in the land of Oleon, in Mohawk land, in Ojibwe land, in Muskogee land, Seminole land, wherever on this continent in the United States, kinfolk are taught to be here for a certain spell to learn the unique accent here in Ohio. It's not quite Chicago, like the Cuyahoga River is like the drawing line, because reasons, that's earth, wind, and fire, and we got water all over the place. That's part of it too. So, all right, earth, wind, and fire. All right. So that was actually beautiful right there. Is youngsters recognized without skipping a beat. All right. Both at the same time. Yo, that was unscripted. Hallelujah. Continuing on. I'm gonna have to download some Earth, Wind, and Fire now. What's going on? What's happening? All right, let's finish this up before the bus comes. That was no intentionality of Rastafari indignation either. How about that? Peace and blessings, all thanks and praise. Journalists come here to learn the accent. It's a unique accent. Why? It's not quite the Midwest accent of Chicago. If you go to the west side of this city, on the west side of Cleveland, it gets like that. Parma Heights, Chicago. That's what it is. A very nasal kind of accent. On this side of the Cuyahoga, it's very sedity. And why that is because of the East Connecticut, whatever company. Just like there was the East India Trading Company, there was the East Connecticut Trading Company back some few hundred years ago. And that East Connecticut Trading Company later becomes what's now known as the Western Reserve. The Western Reserve is now one of the anchor institutions of the Cuyahoga Illuminati, if we're going to put it that way, where that exists in this address right here, all of University Circle, Case Western Reserve University, Western Reserve Historical Society, all them, that, and this. So, point being is that it's a funnel from the East Coast to here. And with that funnel of migration and plantation, and additionally all the mechanics, all the economics, all the politics, and additionally it's also the culture. So the culture here on the east side of Cleveland is very WASP, very white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, with a very East Coast elitist type of mindset. Most of the private schools are on the east side. University School, Hawken, Gilmore Academy, Laurel School, I'm naming names, Udi, Hathaway Brown, and such. All the private schools are on this side. All the Catholic schools are on the west side, predominantly speaking. St. Joseph, St. Joseph is actually down in the near east side, but St. Ignatius, Benedictine is on the south side, actually east as well. So I guess we're just, when we're going to say all the Catholic schools, we're just saying it's St. Ignatius. That's it. Enough said right there. Anyways, point is, it's a very cultural difference, and part of that culture is a very WASP culture of a very New England speaking accent, and additionally, and the journalists are brought here back in the day when there was journalism. The journalists are brought here to learn how to talk like this, walk like this, talk this way, walk this way, all that. That would be Aerosmith, unless it's, of course, the Aerosmith collab with Run DMC. Continuing on. So journalists would be taught how to talk this wherever they would go around the world, around the country. CNN, Turner Broadcasting, in the ATL, in the land of the Cherokee, and the Muskogee, and the Seminole. All the journalists would learn how to talk like this. Not necessarily. I speak a little bit of a different dialect, but I grew up in that parlance because it was a universal format of programming, so that the journalists would have this authoritarian voice, much like all Americans, at least back in the day, when they would hear an English accent, they would just think like, yo, that person is knowledgeable, that person is an authority. All the heroes, all the villains in the movies, like when they're like diabolical heroes, or not diabolical, that too, diabolical villains, but like masterminds, they would have a British accent. You would know. Even if they are Nazi masterminds, they would still have a British accent. Kind of, sort of. My point is that people subliminally are conditioned to think of authoritarianism by the way somebody speaks. Now, it's historically the English accent, and still to this day it's lightweight so, but intentionally back 30, 40 years ago, it was this accent of the New England accent, but tempered with the comforts and like the colloquialisms and like the relaxedness of the Midwest. So it was a nuanced accent, because New England is a very distinct accent, and it's very laid back. It's kind of relaxed, but at the same time, it smacks of that elitism, and it just it's in people's faces. So the point for all this is saying that today, the accent done changed. Back in the days, 80s, again, we had the Valley Girls. The Valley Girls were known from California, whether it was San Fernando, San Bernardino, San Mateo, whatever the valley is. No disrespect, in the land of the Oleon and the Tonga and further. It was like, I'm not even going to imitate it right now, but it's a very distinct accent, particularly in the 80s. And it's basically affiliated stereotypically with like airhead kind of ditzy girls, but at the same time they're rich, or they're affluent, or they're whatever, privileged. And so it was just a very distinct accent, and it was just very stereotypical. But at the same time, people actually talk like that, and it's a California thing, so it becomes further influential. The thing about it, though, is it's very laid back, it's very relaxed. And it's kind of like, you can't take it too serious, because like the comedies that are made about it. I guess Clueless would be the closest thing, but even Clueless is not the Valley Girl accent, because the character is actually from Beverly Hills. So it's a very watered down type of Valley Girl accent. Peace and blessings. So that's like a popular culture reference of something similar. But there are a lot of films in the 80s, and a lot of the films are based upon that comedy of like Valley Girls trying to do things. The 90s versions and the 2000 versions were like played out. So they get like the authentic kind of experience, it's the 80s and 90s. Anyways, point is, when hearing the Valley Girl accent, it was just a joke. When dudes would have it, Valley dude accent. Actually, you know what? The best example of that is the Keanu Reeves film, which would be, what is it? Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. That was the 80s film, I think. So that would be an example, but that was Valley dudes. But that's like a very stereotypical version of that accent. So the thing is, like, people can't take Camful like that serious, because they be surfer dudes, they be surfer girls. So they talk about politics or anything else like that. It's just like, it's funny, it's amusing for those who have that patience. Now, point is that accent becomes increasingly popular with the advent of Semi Valley. How about that valley right there? Silicon Valley, is that the one we're talking about? Maybe that's it. Both. But just technology. All the corporations, from Intel and Apple and all the joints that start up around Northern California. In addition, the Valley Girl accent becomes further boss. How about that? Within the past decade, or within the past generation. So now, and particularly with YouTube culture, and additionally, people around the world are learning English, speaking with an increasingly semi-watered down Valley Girl accent. to the point that it becomes the accent of authoritarianism, rather than the New England accent, the brain trust of Cambridge. How about that? Massachusetts. But like we said, we're not talking about Cambridge proper. We're talking about Cambridge, Massachusetts. Did I say that before? I meant to. Anyways, that was part of the script, the unwritten script. Anyways, so that accent that is intentional for broadcast to speak as authoritarianism, that stems from the New England culture of education, knowing the humanities, Greek, Roman, Latin, knowing the classics, and additionally, and speaking in that genre, that has evolved, that has changed, it has warped, however you want to describe it, to now a California accent being the standard around the world. That's the accent that people are talking with, even today here at Case Western Reserve University, or in Cleveland, within the elitist sphere of society. But the thing about it, and this is what we're getting to. So, what else we gotta say? Oh, one of the things about, again, the Valley Girl accent is that it's like comical. It's just very exaggerated, and I'm not going to imitate it because I'm going to be masculine right now, and not that I'm not otherwise, but I'm not being that theatrical right here on the streets either. So, that's the one accent. Now the New England accent is a very subdued, laid back, relaxed accent, but at the same time it's powerful. The words are weighted. It's very careful. It's very measured, and it has a cadence. It has a cadence to it that is comparatively reserved. And relaxed, because very often it's talking about atrocities, and it doesn't want to bring a lot of attention to it. It wants to be subtle. It wants to be subdued or like, again, subliminal, understated, because what is being discussed is actually nasty, heinous things. So now what we have is a combination of those things, where a lot of people, youngsters particularly, are speaking with a California watered-down version of a Valley Girl accent, and it's a hyper accent, and it's not even just an accent, it's a dialect, or it's lightweighted dialect, but it's a way of speaking that's other than an accent, because it's the cadence too, it's the way it's talked, the way it's spoken, but at the same time, it's not just the Valley girls who are surfing in addition, or the Valley dudes who are surfing. It's the kinfolk who are studying science and studying politics and preparing to be authoritarian, and additionally, even beyond the broadcasters, but speaking in this cadence that is very staccato. It is very hyper. It's very like curt, and it's talking about the things that the New Englanders are talking about, heinous things, and it's doing it in a very detached way, of being comparatively oblivious of the consequences, and that's problematic, and it's a world thing at this point, because it's a world accent, and so we're just speaking to that and recognizing that the Valley Girls done took over Cambridge, Massachusetts, the land of the Mohawk, and that one, particularly those who are studying language at MIT and otherwise, peace and blessings, to be mindful of this and to speak on this, to recognize the implications of this when authoritarians are speaking in staccato and short authoritarian statements, and being very detached from an actuality beyond that immediate phrase, and that's a little bit abstract or whatever, but it's applicable. Just listen to people talk. Everything sounds so like it's ultimate right there in that moment. That whatever he said is the ultimate thing. They're talking about a video game. It's the ultimate thing, and it has to be this. And like stakes is high for everything, and it's a hyper stressed way of speaking, and it's not balanced by like the waves of the ocean, and additionally, and so that's one of the challenging things. And that authoritarianism, that culture of authoritarianism that's connected with technology, is taking over the brain trust of New England. Peace and blessings, all things praise the Most High. Pause on this.